This for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 9th day of August 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather, or not hazardous weather, fire danger, just a lingering area of fire danger that's barely into the high category there along the Porcupine River to the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range there, and kind of a broken up area at that. Otherwise, that's it for the fire danger here. Not much around other than that with all the rainfall and cool temperatures we've been seeing, and really no change coming up for the next several days. And then for the hazardous weather graphics, there are no watches, warnings, or advisories out. No public watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere around the state for the next day or so. And so from there, we'll jump into satellite imagery. And you can see a band of clouds that's moving slowly lifting northward there, but general flow is from west to east right across the southeast coast. Rainfall not all that significant in the last 12 hours anyway. Amounts from, let's see, Klawock had about a quarter of an inch precipitation, or a tenth of an inch, and heavier amounts up to the North Latuya Bay, Dry Bay, those areas over toward Yakutat, a half inch or less. Again, that's 12-hour amounts, and lighter amounts over the northern inside water areas there, but areas of rain fell across all the Panhandle today, and the area lifting northward, the heavier rain that we had overnight last night across southern Alaska, letting up this afternoon due to the approach of the next system, which you can see the clouds coming onto the chart there. You can see the cirrus there coming on with the next system down there. It'll be moving back up in toward tomorrow. Otherwise, sunshine breaking out along some gusty winds. Started to clear the skies out over the Copper River Basin a little bit, seeing 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts along the Copper River at Gulkana. About the same southeast gusting 35 at Ted Stevens International Airport in Anchorage, and anywhere as high as 40 miles an hour out of the east in Turnagain Arm, as the gradient tightens there at the next system starts to approach, and the higher pressure that kind of came in behind the system that moved through last night. Otherwise, we've got some clouds, fog, drizzle, and rain there from the Pribilofs extending up along trough axis into the central interior area. Fairbanks had about a quarter of an inch of rain in the last 12 hours, as did Eagle picked about a third of an inch of precipitation. In fact, 24-hour rainfall amounts are much greater than that up in the interior there. Of course, it really has knocked out the fire danger up over the interior, those rainfall amounts. And still dry there for the north slope in the Brooks Range, especially the western and east side, with some clearing there, Noatak Valley along the northwest coast. Otherwise, on the running this through again, you can see that band slowly actually becoming a warm front over the Gulf of Alaska as it starts to lift northward, the frontal boundary itself of the cold front now into the Northwest Territories of Canada. On the chart, there we go, you can see it there, and it kind of roughly, that's debatable exactly where that frontal location is across the Panhandle there, but it definitely is lifting northward with that low center coming up toward Kodiak Island. We have another low out over the Bering Sea, keeping it kind of wet over the Pribilof Island areas, but that system brought anywhere from up to about 0.6 of an inch of precipitation to Cold Bay during the day today. And but that lightened up as you get up into Bristol Bay, just 1/100 of an inch falling at King Salmon and Iliamna, with a little bit of precipitation over the southern Kenai Peninsula. Generally a break occurring with actually, for a time today, there was some clearing along Cook Inlet up into the Anchorage area. Definitely clearing out along the southwest coast and around Nunivak Island, with showers diminishing. Also over the Aleutians, variably cloudy with most of the shower activity up to the north, except for Shimei and Attu, maybe Unalaska Island there. And for the forecast for tonight, that system low center tracks eastward, east-northeast, along just to about Kane's Head, say Resurrection Bay, or a little to the west by late tonight. And so rain heavy at times back into the North Gulf Coast, eastern North Gulf Coast, and increasing rainfall rates and wind there for the northern Panhandle. And that should spread all the way down to Dixon Entrance by morning with that warm front there pushing in toward the Queen Charlottes. Otherwise, Arctic coast, North Slope, Northwest Interior, Seward Peninsula, dry, light winds all through the interior. And really winds not all that strong out over the Bering Sea, and actually pretty light for the Aleutians, but kind of shower activity along those troughs out there from the 1002 millibar low there just south of Nunivak Island, and then also scattered showers over the area from the Nulato Hills there, eastern Norton Sound down into the Yukon Delta, and look for rain periods of southern Alaska and maybe into the Copper River Basin with some showers up to the Alaska Range, but really don't look for much tonight north of the Alaska Range. And then forecast for tomorrow, that system moves through. We've got 198 millibar low center up over the eastern Brooks Range, but a lot of leftover moisture, upper level low pressure as well, upper trough, so rain, cool temperatures, rain showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm in the afternoon, but nothing very significant or widespread as far as thunderstorms go. And rain and wind diminishing there for the Panhandle slowly throughout the day as that system pulls off to well into Canada and weekends. And you can see yet another system there spreading with the warm front south of Kodiak Island. So look for partly sunny skies tomorrow afternoon for Kodiak Island, kind of a break in between the systems there. Lingering showers, though, over the Aleutian Range. And then for Wednesday, Tuesday night, rain moves back into Kodiak and continues through the day Wednesday with another round of moderate to heavy rain for the North Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. During the day on Wednesday, staying dry down toward Dixon Entrance, Prince of Wales Island, maybe even partly sunny, but the interior from the North Slope, actually the Arctic coast, all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. Look for cool, cloudy, wet conditions. Bering Sea, though, light winds and mostly dry except for some isolated showers. So not too bad out there, but there probably will be widespread low clouds and fog. Low temperatures tonight in the 40s over the interior, maybe lower 50s southern Alaska, lower to mid 50s in the Panhandle, Kodiak Island, and mid 30s for the North Slope and Arctic coast. Highs for tomorrow, not too high, lower to mid 60s, maybe 65 Fairbanks, Fort Yukon, Chuck-Yitzhak, and lower 60s Kuskokwim Valley, maybe even south central Alaska. That's about it. Otherwise in the mid to upper 50s, 56 to 62 for the Panhandle, 50s for the Bering Sea, lower 50s for the Pribilofs, upper 30s central Arctic coast, otherwise in the 40s for the North Slope through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island. Lows on Wednesday morning, lower to mid 30s, actually Barrow dropping below the frost point there a little bit, 31 forecast low. Same thing for the North Slope, in the 30s generally, above freezing. And then south of the Brooks Range, 45 to 50. We also mostly in the upper 40s all the way down to the North Gulf Coast, and near 50 around Kodiak. 50s again for the Panhandle. Highs stay cool on Wednesday, 60s Tanana Valley to upper 50s in Bristol Bay. Lower 60s possible, south central Alaska, upper 50s to maybe mid 60s now over the southern southeast coast, a little bit of sunshine. Otherwise, 50s out over the Bering Sea, mid to upper 30s for the central Arctic coast for your highs on Wednesday.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather, IFR, North Slope Arctic coast, some marginal VFR, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, back to IFR around Barter Island. IFR, Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, southward, Shishmaref through the Bering Strait, just clipping the eastern St. Lawrence Island area into the Yukon Delta and up to the Nulato Hills there. And then Kuskokwim Bay, VFR, Pribilofs IFR, and mostly marginal for the Aleutians, the IFR just to your north, northeast Bristol Bay IFR, and marginal VFR with some IFR Western Alaska Range, Kenai Peninsula IFR down to Kachemak Bay, Prince William Sound IFR North Gulf Coast and along the coast of the Panhandle, VFR over areas of the interior. And for the Tuesday afternoon outlook, forecast VFR there, Yukon Flats, southern slopes of the Brooks Range, Koyukuk Valley, all the way out to Selawik, Kotzebue, on up to Kivalina, Noatak, Kelly, in those areas, Kiana, and southern Seward Peninsula, northern Norton Sound, VFR, and then marginal VFR, southwest interior, Bristol Bay, area of IFR right along the Yukon Delta coast there into Kuskokwim Bay, Nunivak Island right in the center of it, to the north shore of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, the Bering Sea and Aleutians marginal. South central Alaska breaking out to VFR in the afternoon, as well as eastern Kodiak Island, Barrens, into Prince William Sound, Wrangell Mountains, eastern Copper River Basin hang IFR, and the eastern Panhandle over toward the border, also IFR, otherwise marginal. And for the morning Wednesday, IFR solidly entrenched over the southeast coast up into the Copper River Basin. VFR lingering over Cook Inlet into the Susitna Valley. with some IFR over the Talkeetnas, IFR along the Alaska Range, big area of IFR, Norton Sound, down across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta into the southern Kuskokwim Valley, but kind of being held back to the west over by the Kuskokwim Mountains. Bristol Bay IFR, Alaska Peninsula, IFR, and marginal or IFR conditions for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. IFR for the Brooks Range, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and some scattered areas of EFR in the interior. For the afternoon, eastern interior, pretty good, especially north of the Alaska Range. VFR right into the Fairbanks area and westward to the mid-Yukon River area there, but marginal VFR for the big area of the southwest interior, all the Kuskokwim Valley eastward into western Cook Inlet, and VFR right over Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, up into the Susitna Valley, and northern Copper River Basin, kind of touch and go there, with IFR and marginal conditions, Turnagain Arm, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, IFR along the coast of the Panhandle, IFR inland though, Lincoln Canal Glacier Bay down to Juneau, and not that bad out over the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula VFR, mostly marginal for the Aleutian chain, with the IFR over the Pribilof Islands. And for Passes Anatuvik, occasionally marginal tomorrow, marginal VFR at some point in the day, pretty likely for Adigan as well. And Lake Clark and Merrill, mostly IFR throughout the day. Rainy though, go marginal VFR. And for windy, lowest conditions, southern entrance, otherwise VFR, especially on the north side. And for Isabel, occasionally marginal tomorrow. Mentasta, mostly VFR, chance of marginal VFR, mainly the southern approach. And Tanita, VFR, 2 marginal VFR. And Portage, IFR to VFR with Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, 6,000 feet southern Alaska, 2,000 feet the Arctic coast, northern Bering Sea about 8,000 feet, and 4,000 feet in the central Aleutians. Icing, moisture coming in, again, heaviest threat would be, looks like eastern North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin could see some considerable moderate rime icing, and the jet stream, strong southwest flow, very wet weather pattern, southern Alaska into the Panhandle up to 130 knots there, and that other upper low bringing the 40 to 50 knot winds into the North Gulf Coast. I'm sorry, let me back that up a little bit here. I bounced through those a little too quickly. Back to the jet stream, you can see the polar vortex there kind of coming down, so that's putting the north slope and the Arctic coast more under the influence of that westerly flow at about 40 to 50 knots with the strong jet, again, Alaska Peninsula Aleutian Range cutting across Yakutat. Now looking at 9,000 feet. Good west-southwest wind, 70 knots into the Panhandle, falling back to 40 knots there toward the Kenai Peninsula, lighter Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And the interior, 3,000 feet, 30 to 40 knots, barreling into the coast of the Panhandle. And that takes us to turbulence. Considerable moderate chop, Yakutat, northern southeast coast, light to isolated moderate, diminishing throughout the day, Kodiak Island and the southern Kenai Peninsula.
Can be many miles long, from 1 to 100 feet high, traveling at 400 miles per hour. This ocean monster is known as a tsunami, and it can wreak havoc on coastal populations and landscapes. A tsunami is a series of ocean waves caused by any large and sudden disturbance of the sea surface. Tsunamis can be generated by landslides, volcanic eruptions, or even meteorite impacts in the ocean, but they are most often caused by an earthquake where there's a sudden displacement of the ocean floor. When that happens, there's a transfer of energy from the sea floor to the ocean, causing waves on the surface to radiate outward in all directions. In deep waters, these waves may not even be detectable. But when the tsunami enters shallower waters, the wave speed slows and its height increases. The water along the coast may recede noticeably. A large wall of turbulent water, called a bore, may also form. When the tsunami hits, it may come ashore like a fast-rising flood and strike with devastating force. The series of waves may continue for hours. The first one may not be the last or the largest. For your safety, know the potential warning signs of an incoming tsunami. A strong earthquake that causes difficulty standing. A rapid rise or fall of the water along the coast. A loud ocean roar. When you're in a coastal area, it's important to keep alert for messages from local officials, such as lifeguards, police, the U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, and NOAA All Hazards Radio. If you find yourself in a location of a tsunami strike, here's what you need to do to stay safe. Keep calm. Walk or run to higher ground, 100 feet above sea level or 1 mile inland. Do not drive. Keep roads open for emergency vehicles. If you cannot move to higher ground, use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor or higher in a sturdy building. Follow all instructions from local officials and stay out of coastal areas until authorities issue an all clear. Tsunamis can strike any coastline in the world and can affect locations thousands of miles away from where they formed. They may be uncommon, but the devastation they cause makes them a deadly force in nature. For more information on tsunamis, go to the following sites.
Tsunami, a killer wave, speeding across the ocean at 400 miles an hour. It smashes into land, destroying everything in its path. Tsunamis do not have a season, but they can strike any coast at any time. If one forms close to the shore, the shaking of the earth and a loud roar may warn of its approach. But when a tsunami forms across the ocean, it can take hours to reach the shore, enough time to warn people to move to higher land. Over the past 20 years, NOAA has developed DART, a real-time monitoring system that provides data for forecasting tsunamis. The DART systems have been deployed in earthquake-prone areas throughout the ocean, including the Pacific and Indian basins. A DART system combines a surface buoy and a sensor on the ocean floor. This sensor detects changes in water pressure and seismic activity and transmits the data back to the surface. If these changes indicate a tsunami may form, the buoy signals an alert via satellite to the tsunami warning centers in Alaska and Hawaii. Back at the centers, scientists plug the data into pre-existing models. These models predict the height, the arrival time, and the coastal locations that the tsunami will hit. Watches and warnings are issued to the affected communities so preparations can begin. Today, 47 DART stations are positioned all around the world, ready to detect and warn coastal communities about the next potential tsunami. With the DART system and tsunami warning centers in place, we are now better prepared to predict a killer wave before it strikes.
December 26, 2004. What began as an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean ended as the most deadly tsunami in recorded history, with nearly 240,000 lives lost. This was a devastating wake-up call to coastal communities and tsunami research. Prior to this event, only 6 of NOAA's Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami, or DART, buoys were in place. Scientists could only predict tsunami arrival times, not flood potential. And there was not a global tsunami warning system. Today, 10 years later, we can tell a different story. U.S. and international coastlines are far better prepared for such a catastrophe, thanks in large part to research and technology developed at the NOAA Center for Tsunami Research at Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory. NOAA's DART array is now complete, with 39 buoys operated by the National Weather Service's National Data Buoy Center. Along with 21 international buoys, this array can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean and provide these data in real time to forecast when a tsunami may hit the coast and how much flooding there will be. NOAA scientists and engineers are currently testing the 4th-generation DART buoy that will be able to measure local tsunamis as well as distant ones. Flooding forecast models incorporate local topography and historical tsunami data in order to more accurately predict exactly how a tsunami might behave when it reaches shore. NOAA has 75 site-specific models that can provide high-resolution flooding forecasts for effective response and mitigation during a tsunami event. NOAA has gathered data from every tsunami since 2004 to improve its forecast models. Today, it operates the world's only real-time tsunami flooding forecast system using DART data to accurately compute flooding forecasts. The NOAA Tsunami Warning Centers make tsunami data available on the internet and issue advisories, watches, and warnings through the Emergency Alert System and via NOAA weather radios. While it is impossible to prevent a tsunami, we are now much better prepared to detect them and predict their paths and impacts, so those in coastal communities can take the steps necessary to safely protect themselves.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, not a lot different from what we had yesterday. Still kind of hung in there along the central eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and no big changes expected really for the upcoming week. And from there, we'll go to the coastal water forecast there along the Panhandle. Small craft advisories on the south coast. West winds out of the west winds out of the west at 25 knots with 13 to 15 foot seas. And then we've got gale warnings on the extreme north coast. Southwest winds there 35 knots, seas just under 20 feet. And small craft advisories for the central, northern, inside waters, where winds will be south 25, gusting 40 knots, and for Clarence Strait, south winds 20. And for Wednesday, southeast winds 15 knots for Clarence Strait, seas 3 feet. So winds coming down there, especially south. And southwest 15 there for the southern coast, 10-foot seas, and then gradually increasing to 25 knots from the south and southeast on the north coast, seas around 10 feet. And for the central, northern, inside waters, south to southeast winds at about 20 knots with some higher gusts. Prince William Sound tomorrow, variable to northwest at 15, or just call it northwest 15, west-northwest 15 knots, seas 3 feet. West winds 30 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Small craft advisories also for the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, southern Cook Inlet, 4 southwest winds at 25 knots. And north of the Forelands, winds will be southerly at 20. For Wednesday, lighter winds for Cook Inlet, south-southwest breeze 10 to 15 knots, 3-foot seas. Kamishak Bay, much lighter winds as well, southeast at 15. And northeast 20 for the Barren Islands, east winds 20 knots for the western North Gulf Coast, and southeast at 30 for the Middleton Island area, Prince William Sound, easterlies at 15 knots. Kodiak Island, small craft advisories tomorrow, southwest 25 Shelikof Strait, otherwise west winds heading to the east at 30 knots, 16-foot seas. Small craft advisories, 25-knot west winds, Sitkinak to Castle Cape. Alaska Peninsula, west-southwest, 20 knots. Bristol Bay, west at 20, seas at about 4 feet. Bristol Bay on Wednesday, west winds 15 knots. Alaska Peninsula, west 10 to 15 knots, but variable winds 10 knots from Cape Sarachev all the way up to Sitkinak. North winds at 20 there for the east side of Kodiak Island, about 15 knots for Shelikof Strait. And for the Unalaska Island forecast, marine forecast for Unalaska Island, we've got west-southwesterlies at 15 knots, 6 to 9-foot seas. Otherwise, Unmak Island, Adak, Anatka, Amchitka, Kiska, Shimia, all looking really good and light. Variable winds at 10 knots with seas running 4 to 8 feet. And then for Wednesday, from Shimia to Kiska, southwesterlies at 15 knots, 7-foot seas. Otherwise, light variable winds at 10 knots with 7-foot seas for Amchitka. Call it 4 foot for the sea heights at Adak and Atka. So winds really laid down out there over the Aleutians with maybe 8-foot seas there south of the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, west-northwest, 15 knots, 4 to 5 foot seas, northwest 15, St. Matthew Island. And variable at 10 for the Pribilofs, seas around 5 feet there. Northwest 15, or north 20 knots, St. Lawrence Island with 5 foot seas. And for Wednesday, Norton Sound, north at 10, St. Lawrence Island, north 15, southwest coast, northwest 15, light variable winds at 10 knots, 3 foot seas, St. Matthew Island, northern Bering Sea, and the Pribilofs. Up along the Beaufort Sea coast, east side just west-northwest at 5 to 10 knots, north 15 for the western Arctic coast, all the way down to Cape Thompson to Wales, north winds 15 knots, and seas at about 20 feet. And the outlook for Wednesday up that way, Wales to actually Cape Beaufort, north-northwest, 15 knots. Winds stay light for the remainder of the Arctic coast, or all of the Arctic coast. Northwest at 10 on the west side. Call it southwest 10 for the central coast. And the east side gets a little more variable and squirrely with seas running 1 to 2 feet. For the forecast tonight, showers along that trough from the 996 millibar low just south of the Brooks Range there to the one just south of the Yukon River, and then the one out in the Bering Sea. So showers all along that trough into the west central Aleutians. Wet, windy conditions, rain possibly heavy at times with that system moving up to the North Gulf Coast, into the Panhandle. Heaviest rain, northern Panhandle, say back toward Prince William Sound, but wet across much of southern Alaska. And then tomorrow, kind of a break, that thing shifts off, weakens, and rainfall and wind diminish from southwest to northeast, but it looks wet over the interior. Next system comes up, rain, Kodiak Island, spreads right into southern Alaska during the day on Wednesday. Another round of moderate, possibly heavy rain for the eastern North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, dry over the southern Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.